Good evening, everybody. We would like to welcome you to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the city of Hermantown. It's November 21st, 2023. It's currently 7:05 in the evening. We'd like to start the meeting this evening with a roll call of members. We've got myself, Corey Colquist is not here, Valerie Arlette.
Here.
Beth Wensloff, not here. Buckley Simmons. Dante Tomasoni is not here, and Councillor Geisler.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Second up, can I get a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please? Thank you for that. Can I get a second?
Well, that's second.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Third up this evening is the approval of the minutes from the October 17th, 2023 regular meeting. Can I get a motion on that, please?
Well, let's move it.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 4 is an open public discussion. Is anybody here this evening to speak on something that's not on this evening's agenda? If you are, this is the time to do so. Not seeing any, we'll move on to number 5, which is this evening's first public hearing. 5A is an application by Rainy Day Funding LLC for a subdivision to create a 136-foot wide parcel of half an acre and a 1.88 acre lot assessed by the way of a flag lot of 30 foot in width at 5154 West Arrowhead Road. The property is located in an R3 zoning district. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
Great, thank you. If you recall, this item was tabled from the October meeting. There's some questions to the applicant regarding their ability to shift this lot from essentially the flag lot access from the eastern part of the property over to the western part of the property. There was concern from an adjacent property owner that there was a hand dug well that was in close proximity to that property line, and they were worried that potential driveway or utility work may affect that. Staff did reach out to the applicant to inquire about this ability to essentially mirror the property, for lack of better words. They were able to do that. They have now shifted that flag lot access, basically the driveway portion, over to the western portion of the property. So the what's known as parcel A, which is essentially the parent lot, that now directly abuts the property to the east. That's the one having that potentially that hand dug well near the property line that way. So that is basically what has changed between the October and the November meeting at that point.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eric. Commission members, any questions for Eric or comment on this so far?
No comment.
Basically everything's the same, it's just shifted over.
It's shifted over. There's a little bit of change as far as some of the dimensions, it's like links and such, but they still meet all of our minimum requirements.
Frees up that dug well on the other side.
That is correct. Yep, the dug well is away from the potential driveway. That's correct.
Thank you. Perfect
for that. Not hearing any other questions or comments from the commission members. We'll open up the floor for a public hearing at 7:08. If anybody would like to come on up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, that would be wonderful. Come on up, sir. Yeah, just give us an a brief overview of whatever you want to talk about this evening. We did hear a lot of testimony last time.
50 feet beyond that back of the first lot. It's about parallel with that, and it's also in line with some ledge rock that's sticking out. So I think when the construction of the second structure goes in place, I'm gonna have a potential damage or whatever. I guess I'm concerned about the well. With the second one, I'm not against the first house or anything, but the second one concerns me because do we know what's going to be constructed?
No, sir. We're just looking at splitting the lot this evening.
Okay. I mean, so the builder that comes in, he can do whatever they want then, or basically place the house where they want? Or?
No, you have to meet the minimum setbacks associated with the R3 zoning, which this is.
Okay.
It's a 50-foot front yard setback, a 40-foot rear yard setback, a minimum of 10 feet in the side yard, with a total aggregate of 25. So essentially you'd have 10 on one side, 15 on the other, 12 and a half, whatever you kind of choose that way.
Okay,
But as long as they meet those, that's the building envelope that they can work within.
okay, so technically they could be within 10 feet of my well, which is still on the property line.
Potentially, yes, sir.
Okay, that's my concern. That's why I'm against the second parcel or the back lot.
Sure.
And has anybody actually voted in favor of this? Has anybody besides, come and spoke in favor of this split?
And this is the first time that it's on the agenda this evening. For last month, we decided to table it and ask the developer to flip it.
Okay.
And we were just talking about that with another person that, unfortunately for any type of application, you generally don't hear the people that are for things.
Okay.
That come to talk. It's not reflective about this one, Andrew, but that's just kind of an observation of projects in general.
Okay, that's what I was kind of getting at is, if there's a lot of people against it, why would we push it forward, I guess, but.
Basically, what this looks at is, does this meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance? Yes, it does.
Okay,
The fact that the both lots, both parcel A as well as the parcel B, which is the flag lot, and that's what staff looks at. Do these meet the minimum requirements per our zoning ordinance? We look at the setbacks, we look at the lot size, we look at the lot width. And in each case, if it meets those things, it meets the ordinance.
okay, so then the developer can actually come in and do actually whatever they want.
It's made for a single family home and you work within those setbacks.
Okay, so when you say single family, just single family, not a single family next to another single family, like a townhouse type?
Nope, this is
Right.
each parcel A will have one single family home, parcel B will have one single family home.
Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Thank
The
you,
other
sir.
thing, Mark, is that even if this flag lot didn't happen and they sold the lot as a lot, they could put that house wherever they wanted on that, and it could be within the 10 feet of your well.
Oh, I realize that, yeah, and when the original neighbors had their place after the airplane went through it, they were talking about rebuilding and they were gonna move their house back, and I had no problem with that. Now with the they sold it, of course, and now with the developer coming in, I just can't see two houses, I would never want a house where I looked at somebody's backyard or whatever, so I guess I'm just against it that way. But I do appreciate the mirror. So,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Would anybody else like to come up and speak on this evening? If you would, please come on up, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mary Murphy, and I oppose flag lots. And I'm going to be requesting information on the ordinance and the future of flag lots for not just the Jackson project, which mostly concerns me, or I am concerned about mostly, but all of Hermantown. I don't think that flag lots treat the people that live in the neighborhoods with as much respect as the people that already live here deserve. And green space is needed all over Hermantown. Lots of green space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come up and speak on this matter this evening? If you would, now is the time.
Well, yours is next, but if you want to speak to this, you may, sir.
Anybody else? Last call? Not. Perfect. Does anybody online like to speak on 5A this evening? Joe, I don't hear anybody. Do you? Okay. Perfect. We'll close the public hearing at 7:14 for 5A. Commission members, any other questions or comments on 5A this evening?
I think we have created a number of flag lots throughout the city. It's become kind of the standard. And as long as it fits all of the requirements, I see no problems with it.
So my question would be, Eric, in the event this developer sells this property and the buyer decides to buy both pieces, we don't reverse a flag lot. They can just rebuild wherever they want, or is there that possibility?
If a person were to buy both lots,
yeah,
and essentially recombine those, which they can do
right,
directly through the county,
right,
given the width of this property, which I believe is 166 feet of frontage, that does meet the minimum lot size and lot width for a twin home.
Okay.
So in theory, if someone bought both parcels A and B and wanted to build a twin home, they could. They would have to come to the board again with the
or
special
they could
use
put it
permit.
wherever they wanted on that property else.
Exactly, or
right,
place a single family home anywhere within those setback areas. That's
okay,
correct.
Right. And all conditions have been met by the applicant to meet the flag lot, so.
Exactly, all the dimensional things. No, the next step would be, assuming this is approved by the board, would have to be for the building permit process. And once again, upon that, we'd verify that all those setbacks are met.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments this evening on 5A?
Mr. Chair, maybe you want to just explain to the audience about the number of commission members tonight?
This evening, we've got 3 commission members and 1 city councilor, so we have enough people for a quorum. So it'll be a passing vote this evening or a non-passing vote this evening.
And I just have one clarification to ask of Eric, and I think you've said it, this does meet all the current zoning ordinances. And do you remember when we put the flag lot into, made them
I believe it was 2017 is
while.
when we changed that ordinance to allow for flag lots. Actually, it's 2016.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So since 2016, we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And I probably would guess that we tend to do 2 to 3 flag lots a year. I've seen. We actually have another one on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we've had more than that this year.
Once again, any other comments or questions this evening on 5A? Not hearing any, I'll look for a motion on 5A, please.
Mary.
Oh, hi, Mary. I don't believe so.
None have. Because once again, it falls into a dimensional. If you meet the minimum requirements, the minimum dimensional standards, it meets the ordinance.
Yep. Thank you for that. Commission members, I look for a motion on 5A this evening.
I'd move to approve item 5A.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second?
Simmons with a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. 5B this evening is an application by Robert Struck for a subdivision to create a 1,031-foot wide parcel of 13.72 acres and a half-acre lot assessed by the way of a flag lot of 193-foot width at 5661 St. Louis River Road. The property is located in an S1 zoning district. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum for a flag lot. And the one that we just previously heard, this was approximately 2.5 acre lot that was being subdivided. In this case, this is a 20 acre lot that is being subdivided. In the nature of this particular property, as I mentioned, it's a 20 acre lot. Given the location of the existing home, as well as the presence of the Midway River, the applicant has chosen to look at a flag lot split associated with this. So what they're proposing to do is the existing of the parent lot will be 12.7 acres with the dimensions of approximately 130 feet, 1,030 feet by 970. And then the newly created flag lot of 5 acres we'll have the pole portion, as we've talked about before, which would contain the driveway. That's approximately 193 feet by 300, but the actual building area is 480 by 547. That what we require is the basically that the flag portion needs to meet the minimum requirements associated with the zoning district. And in this case, both of these created lots do meet our minimum requirements. Except this is just a little bit different, as is it's a 20-acre property. Right. Once again, the rationale for the flag lot on this one was given the location of the Midway River. This site is more trapezoidal in shape. It's not a true rectangle or square, so you have to look at things a little bit differently from a dimensional standpoint to make it work.
Thank you for that, Eric. Commission members, any questions or comments on 5B so far?
Mr. Chair, my hearing is not as good as it used to be, but I think I heard you say 5 acres for that second.
Yes.
It's the correspondence is 7.37.
My eyes aren't as good as these.
Yeah, well, I've got 6.04.
You're correct. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. I think that's what it was. That's what I apologize for that. The flag portion is 5 acres. The whole portion is
no, it's 6.04.
Okay.
6.04 and 1.33.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yep. Thank you for those clarifications.
Yep. Okay.
It's a wide flagpole.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So 12.71 and 7.37.
Yes. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Yep. Perfect. Commission members, any questions or comments so far on this one? Not seeing any. I'm going to open up the floor for a public hearing at 7:21 p.m. If anybody would like to come up and speak on 5B this evening, now is the time. Please state your name and address for the record. Come on up, sir. Welcome this evening.
And I am applying for the flag lot. And I didn't realize I didn't have enough frontage. So hence the reason for the flag lot, to get back enough to secure the 5 acres, possibly to build. And that's why I applied.
Sure. Any questions or comments for this gentleman?
No, thank you.
No, it seems to fit all of our specifications.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and speak on 5B this evening? Not hearing any. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:23 p.m. Commission members, once again, any questions or comments on 5B? It's a flag lot like we haven't seen yet, where it's really big. Yep.
No questions.
Yeah, I don't have any either. Okay, not hearing any questions or comments, I'd like to look for a motion on 5B, please.
Simmons with a motion, 5B as stated.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second?
I can second it. Well, that.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to 5C. Zoning ordinance text amendments by the City of Hermantown amending Chapter 5 Land Use Regulations by creating Section 590, the Hermantown Business Park. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
This also is a continuation from the prior meeting.
Yeah.
There was some questions, at least from the board, wanting to have a chance to look into that, delve a little deeper into what staff is proposing as language associated with that zoning district. And then last week we did receive a request to actually have access to the city's website, which talks about the Hermantown Business Park. Obviously tonight's a little bit different, as the fact that we only have 4 members here this evening. And a couple of the members who are missing, unfortunately, were some of the ones that had some of the most questions. Obviously, we can still have a discussion tonight and a vote if that's the mood of the board, or obviously a continuation as well, if need be. So given that, As we had mentioned, the city has been working on what's called an alternative urban wide area review document for 120 acres associated with land at Highway 53 and Levake Bypass. This is land that is a former Superfund site associated with that 26 acres hard on that corner. And there's other essentially green fields or land that's lightly developed that moves a little bit further up Highway 53. The city has been working with those property owners on this document for about a year's time. The AUAR is actually coming to City Council on December 4th for their final acceptance. It has gone through all the environmental review and comment periods associated with it. The only comment that we received back was that any future development keeps the snowmobile trail corridor in place. There's basically the corridor that runs along the power poles, basically bisecting that site running north-south. And that was the only comment that we received. So the next step is to create this new Hermantown Business Park zoning district. What it does, it envisions more of a melding between the business light manufacturing, the C commercial, as well as elements from the Hermantown marketplace. So what we're looking at is a little bit higher standards than you would potentially see in the regular BLM or C zoning districts. Similar, once again, where the Hermantown marketplace played. Hermantown marketplace was essentially a C commercial zoning, but it added some different requirements as far as allowed uses in there, some architectural standards, site planning standards, et cetera, with that. So what this business park is envisioning, once again, is some different, obviously minimum lot sizes, looking at some particular uses. One thing that is excluded from this Hermantown Business Park is mini storage. That's something that we allow in the C1 and the BLM zoning districts. We are looking at more of a higher and better use for this Hermantown Business Park. So that type of use is not allowed. I believe last time there were some questions associated with size of restaurants, potentially that could happen in there. I believe that the ordinance, the way it's written right now, is 2,500 square feet. I think there was maybe some concern that maybe should be larger. That once again, that was a question from one of the members. So, I mean, those are obviously things that, can still change with the ordinance that way, if that's more of a recommendation from this board that way. But once again, the envision for this business park is more, potentially large scale warehousing, some potential light commercial uses associated with it, office showroom type of uses, that sort of thing associated with this. A portion of this 120 acres is within the airport zoning district. So we have to be cognizant of minimum lot sizes associated with that, as well as what the particular use is. Because in the zone 2 airport zoning, they cap basically building occupancy at 20 people per acre. So once again, as applications come in, as this project develops in the future, staff have to be cognizant of those things. So right now, I said this is gone through quite a bit as far as the environmental. And once again, this is kind of the next step, identifying, at least creating this business park zoning district. And then at that point, staff will continue to work with the existing property owners that what makes sense from their standpoint, how much of their land they would like to see within this business park area. These, once again, some of the existing uses, particularly on that western properties you move up Highway 53, do already include mini storage warehousing. So they may decide that it doesn't make sense for them to be part of that business park, but rather continue as they are in that C1 zoning.
Eric, I have a question. Do you see this overlay or this new zoning district being a collaboration between the city and the landholder to actually physically construct it, or would this be something that would be totally on the landholder?
There, as far as development of the property, yep. It's primarily, there's been some discussions. Right now, the land is lacking infrastructure. The sanitary sewer would need to be extended across Highway 53. The city engineer has done a feasibility study associated with that, and it's a very large number for that to happen. We have shared that with the property owner, and so they realize that in order for the city at least to partake under that, there'd have to be a user that reflects that type of need. And they're once again aware of that. There's been discussions about the interior roadway system associated with this, and is there availability of city construction with assessment back to properties? That might be an option. Right now, we haven't gone down that road far enough because no users have really come forward to even have those conversations at this point.
Gotcha. I was just kind of envisioning the air park. When I was younger, the air park didn't have anything in it in Duluth. We used to go there and fly model rockets, but all the infrastructure was put in with that, 30, 40-year vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't know if there was something, with that kind of time frame on it, so to speak here.
Yeah, right now that if there were a couple of large users, and this is more conjecture,
right,
that there may be the opportunity to at least create some of that infrastructure, particularly from the roadway standpoint. Obviously, to get sewer across, that's a big leap. That it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's going to be more the interior extension of pipes, roadways, etc. And that's going to there'll need to be a couple, for significant users on board before the city starts undertaking those things. And then once again, how is that done from an agreement standpoint, cost standpoint, etc.
Right. Thank you.
But right now, I guess the big question you're asking is, would the city go through, build roads, build utilities, etc., and wait on it?
No.
I don't believe that's the nature of how we like to function.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Commission members, any other questions so far on 5C?
Eric, I've got some questions and concerns. You had mentioned the mood of the board. Depending on whether we table this once again so we have time to discuss conversation and concerns with fellow board members, I would throw it open to consider that possibly we discuss tabling this for next meeting.
Yeah, we can make that motion here shortly.
Okay.
If that's something you want to look at.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Chairman, are we to have a public hearing on this? It looks like that it's listed under public hearings. Do we need are we supposed to have a public hearing on those?
The chair could call for a public hearing associated with these as well, yes.
Okay. Just didn't know if we were required by ordinance to do that.
Oh, I see, sure.
Yeah, I guess I'm pretty excited about this development. I think it'd be a great addition to the city and open up that space that's sitting dormant right now. What I've read looks very encouraging, but I guess agree with Mr. Simmons that because Beth and Corey are not here, I guess we should give them the opportunity to voice any concerns before going forward on it. Unless there's some reason that's got to get pushed through. If there'd be a way, especially Beth, because she had requested to get that document to look over before we move forward. So I guess I would agree that we could table this until they had an opportunity to come and speak on it. Be my feeling.
Okay. Any other questions or comments so far on 5C?
I would support tabling it as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Should I move forward with the public hearing just because that's the normal protocol?
Don't do a public hearing.
I just saw it listed under, it's on the agenda as public hearing.
Right.
So.
I think how we usually do it comes from.
Okay.
I think typically at the table, we just go straight to table.
Okay.
Public hearing.
Sure.
That's why I brought that up.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking back to protocol, how we handle these things at city council and,
right.
And tabling actions. There is not a public hearing. I think the past we've actually giving people a chance to talk.
Right. I think it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can still call for a public hearing.
You want me to go right?
It's very rare that we table things at this board, so.
It's super rare, right? I get it. So we'll move forward with 5C. We're going to open up the floor for a public hearing on 5C this evening at 7:34. If anybody would like to come forward and speak on this matter, now's the time. Please come on up, state your name and address for the record. Not seeing anybody approaching the microphone. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:34 p.m. Commission members, once again, if you have anything else to say, now is the time. Otherwise, we'll look for a motion on 5C.
Simmons with a motion to table 5C.
We have a motion to table 5C. Can we get a second?
Well, that's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. 5D this evening is a zoning ordinance text amendments by the city of Hermantown, amending chapter 5 land use regulations by updating section 500 S1 suburban to include agri-tainment use as a special use. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
Thank you. Agri-tainment, I'm not quite sure if how much of that is truly a word or not, but that's a word that the city essentially has been using since 2018.
From Engwalls.
Yeah, Engwalls, and actually the property, the former, it's a 194 and 53.
Oh, up on the highway?
Yeah, up on the highway. Because the city at that time had been approached by a user who was looking at wedding barn, wedding facility, corn maze, different things like that. At that time, Josh Bergstad, member of the city staff, did quite a bit of research on essentially the idea of agri-tainment. So what we did in the C1 and the C1A zoning was allow for that idea of agri-tainment. It was very loosely defined what it was. Particularly some of the requirements was a minimum lot size of 10 acres. It required a special use permit associated with it. And I apologize, I'm looking. And provided site plan, and basically the ability to set some hours of operation. I mean, there were fairly few number of things associated with it. Because once again, this was something fairly new to the city. And we just wanted to keep it essentially as open as possible, but because of the special use permit, we have the ability to put other restrictions or requirements on that. So as this came forward with adding agri-tainment to the S1, staff discussed the best way to do this. I also discussed this quite a bit with the city attorney, and he recommended that we keep the same language from the C1. We just carry that over to the S1, but we add additional items within the special use permit section of the chapter to essentially give this a little bit more requirements associated with it. So there's going to be two things this evening. The first one is this S1 that adds agri-tainment to this zoning district. And as I said, it puts a minimum of 10 acres of size on the property. You have to have a provided site plan. The city has the ability that may set the ability hours of operation, and it requires the special use permit. The second item after this is the special use permit section, where we get into a little bit more requirements. Really, a lot of those get into state building codes, et cetera, that way.
Thank you for that, Eric. Commission members, any questions or comments so far on 5D this evening?
Is this primarily for wedding barns?
That is what the applicant, and I believe the applicant is here this evening. It's, and I would actually welcome them to maybe, once that time comes, to explain it a little bit more.
Yep.
But that's primarily the use of it.
Okay.
Is for wedding barns.
Yep. And there was one just built west of the city limits a couple of years back, and I don't know what township that is there. It's a Grand Lake maybe, or
It's up in Grand Lake. I've heard it's fairly successful, so.
yeah, I know it's very successful. Yeah. So anyways, any requirements for water and sewer? Obviously they'll have to, if they don't have city services, they'd have to provide on-site services.
They'd have to provide on-site services. In that case, you'd work with St. Louis County for well and septic requirements.
Okay.
A lot of things that we were finding, and we'll get once again in the special use permit, was like building code, fire inspections, things like that, the ability to sprinkle, life safety type of things. Those were, what we did is we looked into a lot of state requirements. And
the state building code recently changed. If you were in a non-code jurisdiction, you could just do those types of things. But now they've said that any A type of a building has to be, but I mean, obviously in the city, we're code jurisdiction, so. But, so. Yeah, there were a lot of these popping up in rural areas and becoming unsafe because of exiting and toilets and things like that.
Exactly. There's a conversion of existing structures that way.
Thank you for that conversation so far. We're going to open up the floor at 7:39 for a public hearing on 5D. If anybody would like to come up and speak about agritainment or educate us or ask any questions, that would be wonderful. Come up, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Matt LaFlamme. I live at 5650 Rose Road, Hermantown.
Thank you.
The property, I guess, that we're trying to build a wedding barn on is 4258 Midway Road. It's on the corner of Arrowhead. Some of you may be familiar. There is currently a large red barn that's there. And this wedding barn and event venue space kind of came to be because my mom is looking to pass this piece of property off to me and my siblings. And it is our hope to keep this in the family and not have that property subdivided, split up, or sold. Also, Beth Winslow, Bill Winslow, their relatives, and that is the Winslow farm. So it's our goal to create experience, if you will, for people to come within the community, weddings, office parties, things of that nature. This is really our first step, our big hurdle to get this rezoned so we can start some of the other bigger items that need to be addressed. Talked to Eric quite a bit, talked to Joe. So we know we have a list of things to do, but this is really our first step. I got a whole sheet here, but I think I can open it up to you guys for questions, or I can just keep going.
This evening, we're just looking at amending the text of the land use regulations. I mean, I don't need a full education on it, but I mean, if you want to give us a short snapshot, that'd be great.
For usage?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, primarily the goal would be weddings, right? Okay. And then event space. Where the property is now, we have roughly 19 acres. We would have a new build approximately in the center of the property. It's pretty open. It's just a field there right now. So not a lot of major landscaping endeavors there. We would have some paths through the woods and whatnot for people to walk on. The current barn that's in place, we're going to be using that as a historical site. My sister wants to, we've had this farm for 100 years. So there's quite a few pictures when it was actually a farm. So she's in the process of blowing up all these pictures, and she's restoration of that barn is going to transpire. This summer, we have somebody coming in. They're going to jack that barn up. We're putting a new slab in. We won't be using that space for weddings initially, just because it's not up to par. But the restoration eventually will happen. We've been working with Heather Heiner, architect, and foundation architect, just to get a kind of idea what this budget looks like for us. And yeah, we got a good game plan as far as design, but as far as capacity of that building, we want to keep it under 300, no sprinklers, no elevators. I'm in the elevator industry and they're expensive. So one story preferably at this point in time. So
commission members, any questions or comments for Matt so far? Again, remember, we're just looking at changing the text amendments this evening.
And then assuming that this is added to the S1 and the SUP, they would come back for a commercial industrial development permit. We'd still have that. So keep your notes.
Yeah,
because we'll definitely, assuming this moves through the process and a formal application for all this is made, there'll be a lot more site specific type of questions asked you at that time as well.
Absolutely.
I just have a quick question, just because S1 references animals. Are you planning on having any animals on the property?
If I have it my way, no, but my sister, who is watching us here, she does have horses right now. Okay. It is her goal to have those horses on site. There will be no, I believe at this point, again, hoops to jump through, but visitors won't be able to ride those horses. There won't be horse pulling a sleigh or anything like that.
No petting zoo or Or maybe,
The only thing, and this is her wild idea, is she would like to have a beer burrow. Very popular in some of the warmer states, but it's a donkey that has a sack and people can come and pet the donkey and get a beer.
oh my,
So something a little different, something that I have not seen in Minnesota myself. So
well, maybe it would be novel.
it could be.
And down the road from me, there is an alpaca farm. So maybe you could
Oh,
ask
yeah.
them to.
Maybe, yeah.
And no hunting on the property?
No hunting, no.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't think we have any other questions for you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you. Would anybody else like to come up this evening and speak on 5D? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing at 7:45. Commission members, Counselor, any other questions or thoughts on this one before we look for a motion?
Regarding parking lots, are the parking lots required to be paved?
The, per our stormwater ordinance, yes.
Okay. And then stormwater retention and all of that
Exactly. It
for
would be
the,
full, all those things as
Yeah.
far as the CIDP requirements. Mhm.
so that'd be for the parking lot, for the roof of the building and,
Exactly. Any newly created impervious areas.
Okay.
That is correct. I will say that we did have a variance request on a paved parking lot
okay.
for, which was approved by the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. But yes, we require paving.
Any other questions or comments on 5D this evening? Not hearing any, I look for a motion on 5D, please.
I would move to approve.
Thank you for that. Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to 5E, which is a zoning ordinance text amendments by the city of Hermantown, amending chapter 7 special use permits by updating section 725 governing criteria to include requirements for agri-entertainment use. Eric, what do you have for us on this one?
Thank you. As I just previously mentioned, staff went into more Minnesota building requirements and how to handle particularly wedding barns, that sort of thing. So what staff did was took items from that, as well as added a traffic analysis of property and site access. Once again, given potentially large number of people that could be accessing this type of use, similar to what we've done in the PUD, that would require some sort of a traffic analysis based on, you know, what's the road capacity, how can you handle it, how are you going to handle ins, outs, et cetera, that way. But other things, there's a requirement, and these are once again per the state, Minnesota state licensed architect and engineer to either prepare the plans or conduct a code analysis of any existing structures. It must meet state requirements for occupancy and fire codes, city safety requirements, once again, ingress, egress, et cetera, that way. Sprinkler systems for 100 plus occupants. And that's once again, you know, research per the state that this staff has found. And lastly, traffic analysis of property / site access associated with it. So other particulars we would get into under a commercial industrial development permit, as Mr. Geisler had said, we'd look at stormwater, we'd look at building layouts, site layouts, et cetera, that way. Since those are covered under that CIDP section, those are not addressed in this SUP. These are more essentially the mechanics of what would have to be followed under the SUP standard.
Thank you for that. Commission members, any questions or comments for Eric at this time?
I have nothing.
Thank you. We're going to open up the floor for a public hearing at 7:49 p.m. If anybody would like to come up and speak on 5E this evening, now is the time. Please come on up, state your name and address for the record. Not seeing anybody, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:49. Commission members, any other questions or comments on 5E?
My only thought would be is Mr. Laflamme had commented about not needing a sprinkler system for occupancy of under 300. This will require a sprinkler system of 100 or more.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if you want to come up, please state your name and address for the record.
Matt LaFlamme, 5650 Rose Road resident. In regards to the sprinklers, I wanted to say that we were following state code when we had looked that up for building occupancy. Putting a sprinkler system in, it is quite the endeavor, which then involves fire alarms and it's a bigger expenditure that we were hoping to avoid. 100 people is relatively small, but that would be my only opposition to follow the state code for the sprinklers rather than this one. But I said my piece and I'm going to let you do it.
Thank you, sir. Again, the cities did the research.
We did with that. The city is in between. We do have an interim building official.
Yeah.
That obviously between now and city council, we can engage a little bit further on some of those things. But at least what staff has researched so far, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and we're adding this language to this, not unfortunately just for this gentleman, it's for anybody that comes before us. And
exactly,
we could look at modifying it in the future if we ever had to. Yep.
And honestly, I'm sorry.
And because it's a zoning, we could ask for a variance on that zoning, right?
Correct.
If it complied with state code, so.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I don't think it's 100, or I don't think it's 300. I think I think it is close to 100, but I could be wrong.
But that is the goal of this, is that you meet at a minimum of the state requirements that way. And obviously as a city, we have the ability to add other requirements.
Gotcha. Okay. That being all said, commission members, any other questions or comments on 5E this evening? Not hearing any. I look for a motion on 5E, please.
I'd move to approve 5E.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second? Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes.
And actually, if I can add for the applicant, this will go to the December 4th city council meeting. At that point, it's just a first reading. It's introduced at the December 18th meeting. That will be the second reading. That's where the mayor would call for any public comment associated with that, and city council would take an action at that meeting.
Moving on, number 6, continuing business. Anything else, Eric?
No, there's none.
Number 7, any new business?
None.
Number 8, any communications?
There's none.
Number 9, commission member reports. Nothing from myself. Valerie?
No report.
Buckley? No report. Councilor Geisler?
Just if you know anybody looking to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, we have one opening for sure. And yeah, I think that's usually the best way, is to make calls to your friends and family and recruit. Maybe there's somebody that lives in a Jackson home that might be wanting to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Does that get posted anywhere?
Yes, it's I have seen it in the Hermantown Star, and we have it on our city website as well.
Last up is to adjourn this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Simmons with a motion to adjourn.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 7:53 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it.